In a world where perfectly good fixed blades exist, why does anyone even bother with big pocket knives? Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the KnifeCenter. Welcome to episode 272 of KniFAQ, the series where I answer all your questions, sharp or dull. Those questions come from the comments section below these videos, so if you've got an option you would like considered for a future episode, drop it below. I try to answer them to the best of my ability, and Thomas behind the camera records the proceedings and
shrink wrap.
Makes snarky comments. Shrink wrap, I don't know. Is that because some big blades are sometimes covered in shrink wrap?
Those ones are.
We do have some V44Xs left in stock from Work Tough gear at the time we're filming this. Not this configuration, but Gen 3 and a bunch of cool new Work Tough stuff. Go check it out. But before we get to the first question, I have a request from upper management here at the office. We have launched a new shopping assistant on our website, and we're looking for feedback. So if you've used it, what are your thoughts? If you would go give it a use, that's something people say, I guess.
English is hard.
Do that and then let us know how you think. Good, bad, and ugly. Let us know, because we're trying to make it be the best that we can make it be. We're off to a great
Maybe you should
start.
use it.
I need an assistant sometimes.
No.
All right. Shall we get into the first question? Comes today from Gabogan4409. Hey, DCA and Thomas. I'm looking to replace my Griptilian with a larger option. I like the size of my Recon 1, but the flat scales and the backlock are less convenient or comfortable than necessary. Fixed blade is not an option because the outdoor environment I'm usually in includes lots of tourist types that I need to interact with. DCA is known to love his Presidio. I do indeed. And I've been looking at the Hogue EX01. Can you give me a few other options, please? Well, let's take a look at your Griptilian. Classic knife at this point. I've owned several, still own a handful as well. And it's kind of an ideal medium-sized knife. Now, when you go bigger than this, I'm usually reaching for a fixed blade. I do have some larger folders. You know, you mentioned the Presidio as one of my favorites because I have mentioned it, and it indeed is. But I'm not necessarily carrying it for extra strength, more for just like that extra reach, that longer edge. So I'm not reaching for the bigger folders as often, because most of the time when I need more strength, I'm going for a bigger, like a fixed blade instead. Or when I need more than what this can do, I need the strength of a fixed blade as opposed to like necessarily the extra length. But as you mentioned, that's not an option for you because you interact with touristy types. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say this Griptilian, which is very tactical in nature, even if this is the less pointy version in my hands right here, wouldn't be like what I would describe as a like touristy, like a socially acceptable shape. But I guess you're getting more it's more to do with the optics of having a fixed blade on your belt. So anyway, I do have some options here for you, even though societal pressures are dictating the wrong tool for the job is the right tool for the job for you. Should I stop rambling? Here. The Recon 1 is not as uncomfortable as a lot of people make it out to be, in my opinion, at least for my hands, but the triad lock here does make it slower to access. The Presidio is also kind of flat-sided as well. Not in a bricky type of way, at least, again, to my hands, but if you're not into that feel on the Recon 1, yeah, the Recon 1's like a tiny bit flatter feeling, but this might not give you what you're looking for either. As for the Hogue, the EX01, I wouldn't really go for this because it's not really bigger than the Griptilian that you're looking to replace in this case. You'd have to step up to the EX-A01, which is the automatic version. That does have a big 4-inch blade, and that's definitely giving you more reach to work with. Is a switchblade tourist friendly?
How skittish are your tourists?
How skittish are your tourists? Skittish enough that a fixed blade on the belt is verboten, apparently. But the EX-A01 great knife. I love the work that Hogue does. Their factory edges are like the best in the business. They are so, so good. Convexed and polished. Few other companies do them as well. Work Tough comes to mind. Very convexed and very polished, actually.
I'll
But
take any excuse to talk about fixed blades for this.
just buy a fixed blade. No. So yeah, the EXA01 would be the Hogue to look at if you're comparing it to the others. But none of them kind of feel quite right to me. So I've got 3 more primary recommendations here, I would say. If you mentioned sort of a size, and the knives you're talking about already do come with a certain budget attached. So the first one is about the same price as the Presidio, and we're going to keep it in the Benchmade family. 2 options that could be good. The Water Series Adira could be a good option. $250, again, same as the Presidio 2 these days. You got a 3.9 inch almost Magna Cut blade, and a little bit of an out there shape, but it's softened a little bit from a touristy onlooker perspective by the colors that you see right here. It feels like an outdoorsy tool or a sporting tool rather than a weapon, which you might be trying to avoid as well. It feels pretty good in my hands. I have slightly larger than average grips, and you can see there's plenty of real estate for me there. Handles are injection molded, similar to your Griptilian, so the feel is not going to be altogether unfamiliar there. And here it is size-wise next to that Griptilian. So you're definitely getting a step up in reach. Now, are these hard use knives? I mean, they're strong enough for most folding knife uses. You've got steel liners and a strong lock, but you're still dealing with a folding mechanism. If you want more strength out of a folder, I would go with something like the Triad lock. But as you said, we're not talking about that right now. Adira is a good option. The other thing that I'm coming to, and this is quite a bit more expensive than the Adira, but also from Benchmade, the Crooked River. They're about $375 nowadays. 4-inch blade, S30V, clip point, styled like a modern iteration of the Buck 110. You didn't mention specifically what your job was, but part of my head was thinking like park ranger, which for people to get mad at a park ranger for having a fixed blade on their belt, that would be kind of silly. But I could see it happening. Again, I don't know what you're doing specifically, but a park rangery type job with a Buck 110 type of knife, I mean, that's a classic match. It just works together. And this could be a really good option. Fairly comfortable, but still fairly agile handling. It's not a big clunky knife, but you do have plenty of reach for those bigger cuts. And it feels a little stronger than the Griptilian or the Adira because you have thicker full-length liners on the handle here, giving it a bit more rigidity. Is it as strong as a full-tank fixed blade? No, but it's pretty darn good. The Crooked River, that could be a really great option. If the prices are starting to seem too much, even $250 for the Adira is a lot these days. You could consider going, I have one down market option for you. Although to be honest, compared to a Griptilian, it doesn't feel down market. The Pathfinder from Real Steel. The handles on this knife are G10 as opposed to Grivery of the 2 of those Benchmades we looked at. And you get full-length liners like you do on the Crooked River. A fairly comfortable shape to the handle overall, very kind of bushcraft inspired. Bit of contour to the G10, nice softened edges. Feels quite good in my hands. Blade length 3.83. 14C28N for the steel. So it's not going to hold an edge as long as S30V on the Griptilian. Although if you're using an older Griptilian with 154 cm, the delta is not going to be as far apart. If you're using an even older Griptilian with 440C, it's, again, not going to be that far apart either. I happen to really like 14C28N because of how tough the steel is. And that's not necessarily because I'm going to be using a knife like this and like thrashing it about like a survival knife, like beating on it, batoning wood, any of that stuff. But in kind of off-angle cuts where you might be twisting the edge, you've got a lot of stability at the edge thanks to the steel here. And these are like $71. Deep carry pocket clip. My only complaints about these knives is I wish the thumb studs were a little bit bigger. So if you like to open the knife with the studs, it might be a little harder to get a hold of, but I'm usually wrist flicking the blade out anyway. But this is a very classic kind of Puko-esque bushcrafty profile that would work great in an outdoor environment, in my opinion. In my opinion, a fixed blade would be preferred. I'm harping on that. But this is where the comment section gets to kind of guide the conversation a little bit. Fixed blade or folder, when you need to do heavier work, do you bother with a big folding knife? Or let me rephrase that. What use is a big folding knife to you? And I'm not talking about like a 3.5 inch, which I think of like a good medium size, but like a real big knife folder. Where do you use them? Drop it down below. Please and thank you. Next question. Funkdat8. Why didn't you add thickness to the Mega Maximal? He's referring to my design with CGRB, the larger version of the Maximal. Increased size warrants a thicker blade to match the ratio of the rest of the knife, and part of the purpose of carrying a larger knife, to do heavier work. The increased length just makes me feel like the bigger Maximal is more fragile than the smaller one, bafflingly, because of the same thinness but increased blade length. I can understand your inclination there because, you know, the inclination to use a larger tool more indiscriminately is certainly there. But I'm going to disagree with a statement you made that increased size warrants a thicker blade. I don't think that's always the case, especially when I realize the irony of calling this the Mega Maximal when I just described this size of knife as a medium-sized knife. I can't get away with that. Like the Maximal is a small knife, 3-inch blade, but it was designed to fit the needs of like the maximal cross-section of people, hence the name. Anyway, if we ever do a larger version of this, like a 4-inch or thereabouts version, might call it the Mega Maximal XL, as opposed to like the Mega Maximal. That would be kind of weird.
On brand.
At that point, I would probably consider a slightly thicker blade. But at this sub 3.5, just under 3.5 inch length, I still highly prize the slicing efficiency of the blade. And there's sometimes you need a little extra length, or you want a little extra length than just a 3-inch blade. But I didn't want to have to give up the excellent cutting geometry of this thinner blade just to get that. I still wanted that same slicing performance because for most cuts that I'm using an average sized, medium sized pocket knife, that's better. If I need more strength, I have fixed blades.
Fillet knives are big and they're really thin.
I'm sorry?
Fillet knives.
Fillet knives are big and really thin. They're more of a specialist tool, but yeah, it's true. So that would be why I didn't add more thickness to the Mega Maximal. I didn't feel it was warranted, quite honestly. And I mean, it's technically a tiny bit more compact than the Griptilian. Yes, the Griptilian has thicker steel. It also has not as efficient geometry combined with thicker steel. So this may have a tougher blade, but you're still dealing with the folding handle. I'm taking the more satisfying slice is what does it for me. Hope that helps. No shade, just explaining why I like, because knives cut. Cutting knives are good. I think that has everything I wanted to address on that.
Your knife.
It is. Well, that one's not, but this one is. Yeah. Anyway. Oh, this is actually good for people that wonder how micarta wears over time. This one's fresh out of the box. This one's been in my pocket for a while. Pretty stark difference between the two. But that's the cool thing. Micarta, it gets even nicer as time goes on. Put that over there. All right, let's get to the lightning round, shall we? One question. Focus on the focus says, question. Good. My wife uttered the magic words. I think I need a big folding knife to bring to the office that I can use on my lunch. New quest obtained. She has been bringing a serrated steak knife from Victorinox. Now, I immediately looked at the Ontario Camp Plus line, including the serrated bread knife. This is the Santoku. But DCA, can we feel out a little together on this important first folding knife quest? This wouldn't be bad. I'm slightly unclear on the instructions. Is she using it to eat her lunch or make her lunch? The Ontario would kind of be decent at both. But if it's for making the lunch, we've done videos on folding food prep knives. You can check out a link to that somewhere. But quick and easy answer for big Civivi head right here. It's like $85. It's a folding Santoku, and it is really awesome. If it's for eating her lunch, my first inclination would be go to something like the personal steak knife from Kai, but it's not exactly big. So I overcompensated and said Kershaw Strata XL. I guess I may have gone too far in the big direction. They do make a 4.5-inch bladed version of this knife. That one might be better as like an eating utensil. Fairly thin stock for the length, fairly thin handle as well. Yeah, it's all about the accessibility and usability of all that edge on that knife. But these are cool as heck, man. And this one's actually on sale right now for like $50. Normal price is like $83. So that's a heck of a good deal, actually. Is the smaller version on sale as well? The smaller version with the 4.5-inch blade is on sale, but it's $3 more than the XL. I don't know why. I don't make the rules. But you can check out all of those options at the links below over at KnifeCenter.com. All right, I've done my job, I think, for today.
No.
Well, I forget. Accepting the last question and the outro, of course.
That's part of your job.
And though we are at our last question, our finalist question, which is our most seriousest question of the day, which comes from Hey Ha Yaha. Hey DCA and friends, how come all the movie serial killers use fixed blades? Ghostface has his buck 120, Jason his machete, Michael Myers his kitchen, butcher knife, etc., etc. How come you never see a horror movie where the killer uses an OTF or a Spyderco PM2? Do movie killers know something we don't? Yeah, it's fixed blades. They're better for hard work.
Easier to clean.
And killing's hard work. Also easier to clean. I hope YouTube doesn't get mad at us talking about killing being hard work and all that.
We're going to do that soft censorship thing that all the channels do now.
Yeah, you do like that. Horrifying is hard work. And, you know, when you need hard work, you need the strength of a fixed blade. Truly. I am still waiting, though, because they may know something that we don't, as you say, but we still know something that the movie serial killers have not figured out yet. Because we know about the carcass splitter. Did you really think we were going to not mention that? I had to. I don't even have anywhere to set this down. Way over here. Anyway. Silence. That's better. That's all the time we have for today, folks. It craves. That's all the time we've got, folks. It craves the carcass. We're getting loopy. It's time to end. If you would like to get your hands on these knives, check out the links in the description. It'll take you to KnifeCenter.com. But before you do, drop in the comments where large folding knives work for you. And if you have questions, leave them in the comments as well. While you're over there at the website, don't forget about our long-running Knife Rewards program so you can earn some free money to spend on your future purchases. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center. That's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing out. See you next time.